Hookers, Hookers, Hookers is a pretty great episode of 2.5 Men. This is the 4th episode of Season 8. It's directed by James Widdoes. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. I don't think I have a tremendous amount of thoughts, but I certainly did enjoy it. This confirms that this is later the same evening from the previous episode. And just to recap really quickly, if you don't remember what happened, Alan, having cheated on Lyndsey with Melissa, realises he can't do that, breaks up with Melissa. She goes over to Lyndsey's house, and it was implied that she was going to burn it down. And the next thing we know, Alan, Lyndsey, Eldridge and Jake... Oh, putting Jake last in that order probably isn't a great thing. Alan, Jake, Lyndsey and Eldridge are standing burnt to a crisp at Charlie's door. Obviously, in real life, not funny, but within the episode, it was an amusing moment, and this is basically where we're picking up several hours later, and Alan and Charlie are sitting on the sofa, and Alan says, "Who could have seen this coming?" And Charlie just silently raises his hand, and obviously this is now because Alan is back at Charlie's house with everybody else. And of course, that's a really great way to keep the bulk of the episodes still at Charlie's apartment. This is still a central location. And obviously, it's a tragic thing that's happened to Lyndsey's house, but it's a great way to bring everybody together into Charlie's space. Charlie's obviously not happy about this. Lyndsey is furious with Alan. And one of my favourite moments in the whole episode, just one of my favourite moments ever, is when they're all in the kitchen and Berta comes in for her shift, and she just looks at Alan and says, "Oh, damn." Because she thought she'd finally got rid of him. And obviously, she's also now got to clean up after everybody else. So not a great day for pretty much anybody. Alan seems to be quite happy because he has everything. He wanted to stay in Charlie's apartment, but he wanted to be with Lyndsey. And now he gets all of that. And Berta jokes to Alan, obviously trying to work out why he came back, and she joked to him, "What did you do, burn down your house?" Well, she joked to Lyndsey, and just all of the facial expressions in this scene are so fabulous. And then we actually go over to the house, and it's scary. It is a crisp. And then Herb and Judith come over. Of course, they live nearby, as we've already established. They know Lyndsey. And we have this great interaction between Judith and Charlie, where they're both smiling for their own reasons. I thought that was a really fun exchange between both of them. And we're then back at Charlie's with Charlie, Alan and Lyndsey on the sofa, the three of them. And I feel like it's the first time where Lyndsey has felt like one of the main cast members. She's no longer, at this stage, just somebody Alan's dating. It feels like she's been really brought into the foreground, and I think that was a really nice moment. And Charlie has actually left his phone at the burnt down house, so he goes to get it, and slightly sinister moment as he goes up to it, and there's somebody there, and this is Judd Nelson playing Chris McElroy. And obviously this is Lyndsey's ex, and he used to live there, of course, and he just wanted to see what it was like. And obviously Lyndsey had told him about what had happened. And then Herb comes over, and they all just sit in this dark, burnt room and start talking. And it's quite an interesting moment. And we do have some interesting conversation, which I'll come back to in a moment. We then go back to Charlie's. Lyndsey is still in a mood, as one can imagine. And Jake is annoyed at Eldridge. So Alan takes Jake back to Judith's. And afterwards, he goes over to the house. Obviously, he saw people were there, and the pizza boy is now there as well. So it's quite a packed environment, and they're all talking with each other. And they talk. Well, the conversation takes a strange turn as they talk about how they've all basically slept with each other, because if you sleep with somebody and then that somebody sleeps with somebody else, you've basically slept with the somebody else, which I don't agree with, but I can kind of understand the logic to some extent. And then we have a really interesting moment when we go back to Charlie's house, but it's just Lyndsey and Eldridge. Charlie, Alan and Jake are not there. It's just those two. And I thought that was a really funny moment and quite strange. I don't know if we've ever... I can't think of a moment. Correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to point a moment out. But I don't know if there has ever been a moment where we're inside the house and there's no Jake, Charlie or Alan. I feel like there's always at least one of them there. There might be something I'm overlooking. Maybe there's a scene where it's just Evelyn. I can't remember, but certainly that's a very unique moment nevertheless, and I found it to be really interesting. We're then back with the guys talking about whatever, and they get onto the topic of families. And here we have a really interesting moment where Charlie talks about his envy for their family lives. And obviously they make comments, her in particular, about how the marriage might not be that great. But it's a really interesting moment, and not alone to this episode. I've mentioned this quite a bit, certainly with this season and the previous season. Charlie is really maturing in some ways. In some ways, not so much. But it's very clear that he is thinking more long term for maybe the first time in his life. And he's definitely realizing he doesn't want to be on his own forever. And I think these are really interesting moments for Charlie. And then Lyndsey arrives and she sees Chris there. She didn't know he was there until now. And she agrees to talk with him. And everybody else leaves. And obviously there's maybe an awkwardness there, as one could wonder, well, if she talks with Chris, will they rekindle their romance? Will she leave Alan? I'm obviously not going to talk about that, but there is, in my opinion, something we're encouraged to read into there. And everybody leaves. Alan is on his own in the middle of the room, and a storm is brewing. And the lighting is beautiful. It's beautifully lit as Alan just sits in this misery. This moment is obviously not the highlight of his life. And I think that's really an interesting way to end the episode. Because throughout the episode, he was the only character who was happy. The only character who got what he wanted. He wanted to stay at Charlie's. He wanted to be with Lyndsey, having his cake and eating it too. At the very end, he's alone in the burnt house as a storm is coming over. And I just think that's so wonderful. And not that I'm happy Alan's in a difficult situation. I just think the way it developed, the way things progressed, I thought it was very, very well done. And the lighting at the end as the storm comes over, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. So a really enjoyable episode. A lot going on there. A lot of very funny moments. I think a lot of interesting moments. Lyndsey and Eldridge on their own in the house, and Berta, just Berta coming into the house and seeing Alan. She's fabulous. She's definitely one of my favourite TV show characters ever. They're all great. It's an absolute joy. I think this might be one of my favourite episodes in a while. I think it definitely has a lot to offer. Hookers, Hookers, Hookers is definitely a strong episode of 2.5 Men.